Hi, Sheriff. Dr. Danny. I put the gas in the more and give it to Evelyn.
Ha! That's what my neighbor got killed. Or L series, I think. Racing all over.
I got Evelyn a 37 horsepower, 61-inch spare, zero turn. She'd already worn that one. I had to get her another one last year.
Happy birthday. Here's your new mower.
Yeah. Evelyn likes it. I don't argue. Promise. We'll give it another minute.
Actually, it does say 5.
Anyway, you want to change that?
It didn't go on that, yeah. It'll be right.
That's right. No, it does. I'm surprised. I thought they would bring RSA interest. Okay, let's get started. We're going to bring this meeting. Sorry about that. We'll adjust it eventually. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Don't have a flag. We're going to pretend. Please stand with us and say the Pledge of Allegiance for the flag, followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for coming. Planning Commission does have a quorum. We only have one member absent. That's Danny Krigler. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda if there are no proposed changes?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. This is a joint meeting between the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. The Planning Commission only makes recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. We have one case on the agenda tonight, which is a subdivision case. If the parties are here, you may want to stick around to the Board of Supervisors to make the decision on that. We only make recommendations. Okay. We have the minutes from the March 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission workshop meeting that we need to approve. Is there any issues? Anybody have any comments, any proposed changes? If not, can I get a motion to approve that minutes from the March 3rd, 2021 workshop meeting? Got a first?
Second.
Second? All in favor, say aye. Unanimous. Okay. First case on the agenda and only case on the agenda tonight is case number S04-21-02, a subdivision request by Travis and Sarah Harris to subdivide an existing 40.3 acre parcel, creating two new parcels with residue. The subject undeveloped parcel is zoned A1 agriculture, and the three parcels, including residential, would contain 30 acres, 5.5 acres, and 4.5 acres. The subject parcel is located on Mountain Prospect Lane, Route 716, and is identified on the Madison County tax map as tax map number 33-17. Are the applicants present? Mr. Webb, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think I need more so residual or residue. Residual.
Residual?
That's correct. Okay, just looks something. Nothing else to add, everything's in order. This is the first one that we've had in a while. The majority are single ones. The health department's all there, so.
Any questions from the planning commission for Mr. Webb? We have health department VDOT approval. Seems to be a slam dunk, but that's just my opinion. Any questions? No questions. If there are no questions, can I get a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion that case number S-04-21-02 be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
Second.
Second? Gotta get us. Nathan? Okay. Got a first, second? Any comments? Anything else? If not, all in favor, say aye. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I'll just say, I did include next month's hearing, just so everybody can have a advance warning
Okay.
for what we're doing next month. So just going to read those, just as, again, just as informational. We all have our first site plan for the South Park business park, by Food Lion. There was a site plan for a dental office and a general office space. On the second one, camping has camping is now going to be Airbnb everywhere apparently, and primitive camping is become very popular. So we have someone, Judson and Lisa Buchanan on Duet Road, that are applying for a special use permit for 4 primitive campsites. I did talk to the health department. I've been sitting in the health department. Primitive campsites requirements for the health department actually pretty straightforward. You can do a temporary bathroom. You have bathrooms temporary. What I understood, up to 75 people can have temporary bathrooms. This is obviously not going to be they're large, and they have proffered that it's just their special use permit. So if for some reason the Buchanans didn't operate, they've owned this property for quite a while. If they don't operate, it wouldn't be transferable. The third one is obviously the applicant is the Board of Supervisors, but the ND&C consultants will be presenting that on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. Google Ridge Park, part of the emergency services network, so that will be coming up. The completed application, which was turned to us about a month ago. It's that thick. So other than that, just as a heads up for what's coming up.
Thank you. And the wireless communication facility, you'll have an application for the Planning Commission workshop on the 22nd. Okay, and everybody here should be familiar with the primitive campground issue from previous experience. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
We just go ahead and knock this off, since the rest of it's all discussion.
Oh, please. That'll work better.
Like the board supervisors portion of this meeting to order. we do have a quorum. We do need to adopt the agenda. We have a closed session this evening. We need to add anything to this agenda. That's it. Pleasure, the board.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Case number S-04-21-02 is subdivision request by Travis and Sarah Harris to subdivide an existing 40.03 acres parcel, creating 2 new lots parcel with residual parcel. Subject undeveloped parcel is zoned A1, and the 3 parcels, including residual, would contain 30 acres, 5.5 acres, and 4.5 acres. The subject parcel is located on Mountain Prospect Lane, Route 716, and is identified on Madison County Tax Map as 33-17. Ligon, anything to add?
No, sir.
You got any questions for Ligon? To the public? Public? Back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve case number S-04-21-02 as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the discussion presentation by Mr. Tim Clemens from RSA, the general manager. And I'm sure everybody's been reading in the paper about what's going on, but Mr. Clemens, welcome.
David's got some handouts he's gonna provide to you, if you want one. The same thing as you see up there, if you like. A written copy.
If you'd like for us to be finished, then I'll have you.
I'll take
Yeah, if you have enough. Yeah, we
Yeah, lost
yeah.
one. We'll share. We can share. No, we're good. Thank you.
Yep,
All right,
I
well,
think
good
I've got it in
evening.
there.
You've got to understand that. I'm Tim Clemens, I'm the general manager of Director and Service Story with me tonight is David Gerald. David is our manager of a lot of the different programs that we run. So he's the one who put this program together tonight, so I want to commend him for that. But we want to just take an opportunity to come and share with you, as you said, you've seen RSA's name in the paper a lot lately. We don't really like that. We just do not have our name in the paper, but it has been. So we thought we would share with you folks a little bit about what we do here in Madison County. So if you want to go to the second page of the history of Madison. In November of 1984 to June of 1990, RSA actually served as a contract operator for the town of Madison, running both their water and sewer plants at that point. And then in March of 1993 to now, RSA has served as both the owner and operator of that public water and sewer system. And that was turned over to us out of town at that point. So we'll go over a little bit about what we have for a system.
So the first thing I want to touch on is White Oak Lake, which is probably the centerpiece of Madison's water infrastructure. And it puts Madison at an advantage as far as water security goes. I think we all know that our neighbors are discussing potential storage options, and this is a very important thing for everyone moving forward. So back in 1965 is when this project was actually completed, prior to the construction of the water plant. It's a 163 million gallon reservoir with a safe yield of 1.4 million per day. So that number is basically what the regulatory agencies have determined is a safe amount to take out on a daily basis that is sustainable. So the next thing in the process, just downstream from White Oak Lake, about 2.5 miles downstream, is the water treatment plant. So the water treatment plant was put in service in 1968, so it's been around a while. Typically, you'll end up replacing the water plant due to demand, when you can no longer satisfy the demand, but as you can see, that's not quite the case in this situation. So the plant is rated for 250,000 gallons per day. And I put a little stat on there, which I think is interesting. That's only 18% of the safe yield of White Oak Lake. So there's a lot of potential there for growth, if that's what is determined as necessary or desired. And right now, we're only at 26% of that capacity, around 66,000 gallons per day. Again, 5% of White Oak Lake safe yield. So we've got a lot of room for growth, if that's what's desired. The last 2 points here, we have 177 residential customers on the water system and 112 non-residential.
We go from the water over to the wastewater side of it. That plant was built in 1974, a few years after the water plant was constructed, upgraded in 1993. The capacity of it is only 80,000 gallons per day. So it's roughly just a third of what the water treatment plant could produce. 32% of the water plant's capacity. The average throughput, what we averaged through that plant in the year 2020 was about 70,000 gallons a day on average. Some days more, some days less, but we averaged about 70,000 or 87% of the permitted capacity for that plant. According to regulation, DEQ, if we get to a point of 3 consecutive months of 95% of the capacity, then we would be required to begin a process, planning, scheduling for either increasing the plant size or determining a way to lessen the flow, which that has been done to some degree. We'll touch on that just briefly in a minute. It only has 92 residential customers that come to it and 84 non-residential customers. So it's substantially smaller than the water plant capacity. Some of the recent capital improvement projects that RSA has done in Madison is we have done TV inspection of the sewer lines, all of the gravity sewer lines. We've done TV inspection of to identify sources of both inflow and infiltration. We located 6 or 8. We dug those up, we repaired those, and actually we saw a benefit from that on reducing during a high rain event or anything like that. We decreased the amount of flow coming from the sewer line. So we found some areas where we were pulling water in during a rain event. We've also done repairs and replacement of some damaged sewer line that we found. And that again prevents entry of rainwater and groundwater and reduces stress on the wastewater plant. Last year, we completed the Mud Road water line replacement. That both increased capacity and reliability for the people over here that use it. We've seen a good increase for that. And then the last thing we did towards the end of last year, we went through the town of Madison and we replaced all of the water meters in town. We actually went to an upgraded system with radio read technology. So David's going to talk about that briefly, but for us, what it means is instead of taking 8 hours or 10 hours to have to read meters manually, we literally can do that reading in less than an hour.
Right, so this water meter upgrade program is something that we're doing across all of our systems, across the 3 counties. There's a few advantages to this. First of all, you've got to replace the meters at some point. They get old, they slow down, they stop working. So this is really a logical next step as far as technology goes. And like Tim said, it makes the process more efficient. What used to take a week takes, an hour. And really the next aspect of this that really benefits the customer is that the usage data is stored on that meter or up to 90 days. So what ultimately we could end up with is the potential for customers to see their usage on a real-time basis. We've got a couple charts here. It's really hard to see them from that distance, but if you have a physical copy, you get an idea of what the kind of data that we can look at in the office as far as seeing, daily usage or even down to hourly usage. So if you have a customer that calls in with a high bill, they're curious to know what happened, you can go pull that data and say, at 3 a.m. on Saturday the 5th, you had extremely high usage for 4 hours and then it stopped. So it really helps the customer. It also helps us as far as the customer service side of things. We're not quite at the point where we can read those meters from the office or give customers access to that data in real time. That will come with time, but right now we're focused on getting all those meters upgraded. So in Madison, we have upgraded all of those meters with the exception of one commercial meter, and we're pretty proud of that project.
We've seen a benefit from it, honestly. We had a situation about 2 months ago where there was a leak at a home in the Madison system, and it's a vacant house, I guess, nobody lives there, and so the leak went on for a little while, and the people that owned it went to the house and found that, things had been leaking. Well, actually, they didn't go to the house, we sent them the bill. And they said, what in the world? And then they went to the house. And we were able to go back through that meter and pull up the history on it and show them within 15 minutes of when the leak started, and how long it ran, and how many gallons a minute it ran the entire time, until they actually had a plumber there to stop it and fix it. So it is a valuable thing for us. We've used it in many cases to be able to show somebody who says there's no possible way that water went through my meter. We can show you exactly. We can't tell you if it's a leak or if it's being used, but we can tell you when the water went through. And so we have found that to be very valuable for us to use.
So in addition to those projects that we worked on in the past few years, we're steadily chipping away at our capital improvement plan. Here are a few projects that we're working on now. The sewer side of things, like Tim was talking about, we did TV inspections of all the sewer mains in the system. So we're trying to finish up those repairs and replacements where necessary. Next up, rehabilitation of what we call the Pig and Steak pump station, which is behind Pig and Steak. It's old equipment, it's worn out, it's time to be replaced, and we're focused on getting that done as soon as possible. Last sewer project, and we'll touch on this a little bit more in the next slide, is upgrading and replacing the sewer plant. So as you saw earlier, we're maxed out in capacity, the plant's old, it's really in need of replacement, and we're working now on coming up with a financing plan, getting as much grant funding as we possibly can, making that project happen. On the water side, we've got some water line replacements that are coming up soon that are really important to the system as a whole. First of all, and really one of the top priorities, is replacing the water line that goes under Route 29 over to Maple Drive. So, this is a really vital piece of infrastructure for us, and it's something that we want to get done hopefully this year. Next up, tying into that same water line is replacing the water line on Washington Street. So that's a replacement, but also an upgrade in size to improve flow rates across 29 to whatever is taking place on the other side, whether that be Maple Drive or if there are additional connections that need to be made. Third, I keep saying it's a high priority, but this is also a high priority, replacing the water line on Thrift Road. So that is tying the water plant to the distribution system. It's entirely vital to the operation. And it's something that we want to get in design and figure out a way to pay for that and get it done. And the last point, and this is a little further out, but it is something that we're cognizant of, is the planning and design for water plant upgrades. We'll touch a little more on that in the last slide, so I'll leave that for that.
All right, the next slide is talking about the sewage plant, potential upgrade there. As David said earlier, the current plant, we built it, put in 1974, so it's nearly 50 years old. It's a buried metal plant. That metal is fatigued after 50 years of nonstop running. So one of the things we've either got to replace it or make significant improvements almost to the point of replacing it in order to make sure that we stay in continued regulatory compliance. The one thing we've started, the process we've started right now, is we're working currently with USDA on a grant program that they have available. We've just gotten into their, they call it SAM system, it's System for Award Management. And that's under the grants program available, the $30,000 allowance for the preliminary engineering report. We're in the process now to obtain that. So if we get approval for that, then we will have an engineer do an engineering report on that plant, what it would take to either replace it, upgrade it, or whatever, in order to maintain compliance. And we hope to have that approval in the next, we've been in the system for a little while now, but we would hope in 90 days to have the approval. And then if that works out the way we hope, we have the potential for up to 50% grant funding for both the design and construction of a new plant. Again, we'll have to see what that engineering report comes back with. The engineering estimate we have today to replace the plant is between $4 and $5 million. So if we can get a grant of half of that, that would be substantial. If we can value engineer it and do it a little cheaper, that would be better too. So our goal would be to do that. The decision that would have to be made then, of course, is do we keep it the same 80,000 gallon a day plant it is today, or do we look to the future and say we should make it a little bit bigger for some growth to occur? You know, should we match the size of the water treatment plant so that they're comparable? Those are decisions that would have to be made when we get to that stage of the program, if we get there. So we would be back talking to the county at that time to get some guidance there, directions to what the county wanted to do. But that's where we stand right now on the sewage plant.
So our final slide of this presentation is about the water treatment plant upgrade. So this is kind of a multi-phase thing we're talking about. First of all, there are certain projects that are in our current CIP for making repairs to the current water plant. In particular, some concrete repairs to the intake structure on White Oak Run, as well as repairs to some outdoor concrete structures that have been there for a very long time and that need some TLC. This last one here, as you can imagine, technology has come a long way in the past 50 plus years. So there is new technology with microfiltration, which I have on the slide here. That's going to remove a lot more of the bacteria and viruses that we're targeting with water treatment. We think it would be an ideal solution, but again, that is in the future, and that's something that we will do a lot more thinking and design about.
The microfiltration idea is something we're looking at in all the systems we run for water treatment. Just about everywhere we have a water plant, if we're looking to do any kind of replacement work, we're considering microfiltration simply because it has come a long way technologically, and it takes a smaller footprint than the old plants did. You can fit a lot more treatment into a fairly compact area. So it's just something we're considering everywhere. It's just a consideration, but I think that is all we have as far as our presentation went. We are available to try to answer any questions you have. If we don't have the answer for you tonight, we'll get you one. But we did want to at least try to bring you up to speed on where we were at, with what we were at.
Okay. Pete?
I got quite a few questions I'd like to ask. Imagine that. You said that the plant is at 87% on an average for the year. I think you said 87. Is that 87 based on the infiltration or what the plant is actually treating, or the whole thing? Because I'm sure that we have infiltration.
It's based on what we record on the flow meter at the plant. That's,
So
that's
that
what,
could be
it
infiltration.
includes everything that comes through the plant, yes, sir. So the more we fix in the system, the more infiltration that we can reduce, the longer we can stretch it.
On the sewer lines, to replace the sewer lines, have we looked at slip lining into the existing pipe to where it would be cheaper than tearing up the roads?
Yes, sir. When we get to where we have to replace a piece of pipe under the road, we evaluate whether it's better to dig it up and replace it or whether to look at slip lining. Yeah, because if we dig it up, we not only have the cost of the pipe repair, then we have to repave the road to be dot standard. So we look at both.
Is most of the water line that you're looking at replacing, is it old terracotta or transite or cast iron?
Cast iron, in a lot of cases, cast iron. We don't have a whole lot of terracotta or anything like that in the water system here. But for instance, the lines David was talking about, the line actually going over to Maple Drive, what the first thing we want to do is actually bore the highway, bore the highway. The line that's there today is direct buried. So if it were to break, we have a problem in that we don't have it in a bore. It was not put in a bore years and years and years ago. So we would like to bore that road and then be able to put a new pipe underneath it. Some of the others, Washington Street line, it's got 3 or 4 different sizes of pipe in it that were just put in phases. And so we'd like to bring it up to one size, one standard. And it's a combination of some PVC, some ductile iron, some cast iron. We would just like to bring that all up to one standard.
So when you TV'd it, did you think you ran into any places to where there might be storm water or sub pumps pumping into the line to create a lot of water unnecessary to treat?
We did not, when we TV'd the main sewer lines, we did not see anything that we thought would have been sump pumps or anything. We did find about a half a dozen places where we had leakage coming in, and we dug those up and repaired those already. We have another section that we found recently, a little over 100 feet of pipe, I think, that right now we're getting prices on whether we're going to slip line that or dig that up.
And what about manholes? Do you have a lot of infiltration in manholes?
No, we do not.
Are you using watertight lids?
They're dovetail grooved lids, and we replaced all the manhole lids last year throughout town. We went through and replaced all the rings and covers on every manhole up and down Main Street.
So infiltration is not really a problem where it would give us more capacity.
We still see, when it rains, when we get an inch or two of rain, we see an elevated flow at the plant. So we're still looking. So there's areas that we haven't found yet. We come all the way down through Jack Smith's field here. We found one of those manholes that actually had a pretty good sized leak going into it. We repaired it. So we're constantly looking.
And far as upgrading where the plant is, would the plant be better put in another location in the county, or would it be best there?
Well, right now, everything already comes to that location. So if we were to move it somewhere else, it might add a cost in order to be able to take it from there to a new location. Ideally, if we're dreaming, RSA would love to have it on the Robinson River because it's a larger body of water to discharge to. But in all actuality, we may have to stay generally in the same location that we're at.
So if you upgraded the plant where we're located at now, I know there's a certain amount that DDQ will allow you to discharge. If we made the plant bigger, would we be able to discharge in the creek and still stay under the DDQ standards where the plant is now?
As far as we know, yes. Now, we have not gone to DEQ and said, okay, we want to expand this plant in size and we want to take it to X gallons. We've not had that discussion with them yet. We would have to have that based on what this engineering report comes back with.
I guess one of the other questions I've got to ask is about EDUs. Let's say that I own 10 EDUs and I decide that this gentleman comes to me and says he'd like my EDUs. My understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I come into your office and I say, I'm going to give up my EDUs, and he's with me and he says, I'm here to purchase them, is that the way it works?
That has been allowed, yes. They cannot be sold. They're not an open market sale. The only person that can purchase them would be the authority, and we would purchase them back at what was paid for them. We would resell them at the current price, whatever that happens to be. We've had that happen in Madison a couple times in the last 5 to 10 years. Yes, sir?
I must apologize in advance because I'm new to all of this. But it sounded to me as you made your presentation that RSA primarily deals with the town of Madison, not the Madison County. Is that right?
The original system that was constructed primarily served the town of Madison. The town basically put the system together. Today, we serve all the way out to Plow and Hearth or Sheets for water. We serve the schools, we serve Yoder's Market, we serve all the way out from Sheets down to Plow and Hearth for water. We've got a 12-inch water main down that road. So we go that far with the water. But the original system, when it was built, primarily served the town.
And what's the balance now? Is it 60-40 or town versus county or what?
Well, most of the sewer customers would be within the town. Because as was mentioned by this gentleman, EDUs, there are no sewer EDUs available. Those have all been purchased. So all the capacity on the existing sewage plant has been bought. When it builds out, we'll be faced with having to do something more with the same. On the water side, we have ample capacity to expand if we have a project that goes in near where we have a line. Or
Well, you have
someone wants to
capacity
extend.
to expand, but have you expanded very far into the county beyond town limits?
As I say, we go as far as Sheets and down to Plow and Hearth to the warehouse. That's as far as the water system goes.
Anybody else?
How far does it come this way from Ruckersville or from Greene County? Does it cross the river?
Crosses the river and goes to what used to be called the lace factory.
So there's a section between Sheets and the lace factory that's no water line there
Correct.
that could possibly be tied together and increase a lot of volume.
It could be. It's quite a few miles of pipe to put in. It comes up to the old lace factory and stops there. That was served years ago.
I have a question, curiosity. You said it goes to Maple Drive. The water line does. How far down, does it go down Oak Park Road? Without going, the other Oak Park Road?
It goes down Oak Park Road, a couple hundred yards is all.
Not as far as MWP.
It stops just about where the old MWP building was, but on the other side of the road. It's where the main stops, right?
Dan?
I have a real important question.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's responsible for the manhole covers, VDOT or y'all coming down Main Street? Can you do something about that? It's bump, bump, bump all the way.
I'm gonna be really honest, if I were putting that line in today, I wouldn't put it in the travel path of the road.
Right.
But many years ago, when it was put in, they put it in the travel path. So that's why we went through last year, we replaced all the ring covers, trying to make it a little smoother. We come back and tried to pave around some of them to make it less bump, 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 but make them go away. Someone suggested that we just pave over them. I said, that'll be smoother, and I said, but we can't get to them. That'll be a problem. So, then if you have a specific one, we'll have the maintenance guys take a look at it. Maybe there's something that can be done on that specifically.
Okay.
But we are responsible, not be done.
Anybody else on the planning commission have questions? That's why.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. With the mask, it's hard for me to hear sometimes.
Is there a plan for expansion? Since you already expanded to Lion House, are there other places where you?
If someone has a project and would come and talk to us and it's near one of our existing water lines, we would be happy to work with them on that.
Do you have anything in the works at the moment?
No, ma'am, we do not. We do not. We generally don't go out and speculate on lines, because if we do that and we say, we're gonna run a mile of pipe out here and spend $1 million on it, it should be about the cost, 1 to 2 million. And then no growth ever occurs, then we're asking our existing customer base to foot that bill. And so we try not to do that. But if someone comes to us and has a project they want to work on, and we're close by, particularly with the water, because sewer we don't have to do, but with water, we would love to talk to someone.
All right, thank you. Mr. Clemens, I got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
First one, the one I keep reading about in all the local newspapers, et cetera, is Greene County's attempt to withdraw from RSA. I would like to know exactly what the impact of that will be on Madison County.
It would have an impact. I'm not sure I can give you the exact amount.
Give me your best guess, please.
Well, right now, the service authority serves 3 counties. And so our administrative function is, and our engineering function, our maintenance function is divided between 3 counties. So Madison doesn't have to have its own admin group, Greene doesn't, Orange doesn't. We have one that serves everybody. So if one of our counties were to remove themselves, we have that same expense pretty much, but it's only down to 2 counties.
It's gonna be down to what, I'm sorry?
2 counties.
Okay,
So, it's not gonna lower our expenses, unfortunately. We would still have pretty much the same admin and engineering group that we have today, but the cost would be spread over a smaller group.
so the utility bills would probably go up.
They have that potential.
Okay, all right.
We do not, I've been asked to give an exact amount. I cannot until I know exactly what is going to occur.
Okay.
Customers in Greene and Orange, just out of curiosity.
Greene County, we have approximately 3,000 customers. And then Orange County, about 5,000. And those are ballpark figures. Those are not exact. Those are ballpark. Orange County, we serve the east part of the county, Lake of the Woods, but then we serve all the way down to the town of Gordonsville for sewer.
And are their systems roughly the same age and same sort of condition, or is it?
No. The east systems are newer because they were put into labor. But we're already looking at some things down there because of demand. We're going to be driven to, particularly on the water side, to look at an increased plant because of demand. Gordonsville, we acquired a very old sewer system. And so we've had it for about 30 years and we're still doing repairs on it. So we'll continue to do repairs on it.
It sounds to me, though, that the systems themselves are separate county by county. You're not linked into Greene
No, they're not.
physically or into Orange physically.
No, so that was actually talked about back when the service authority was created in 69, 70, 71 timeframe. They talked about tying all the systems together. But for whatever reason, it never happened. There was a plan to do that. There was meetings held, there were engineering studies done, but it was never done. So each system is fairly much separate.
Okay, but Madison County has one water treatment facility and one sewage treatment facility.
Correct.
And the sewage treatment facility is the small one right down the road here. You gave me a tour of that a few years back. Right, and it definitely needs some improvement for sure. My question would be, what's the financial position of RSA if it's just 2 counties to make all these improvements that you're talking about here? I mean, they seem like they would be a couple of dollars.
It's going to become more difficult. Let's put it that way. Madison's not one of our larger systems now. So, Madison certainly benefits from the tri-county arrangement that is in place today. If it's 2 counties, then we will still function. We will have to look at alternative sources for funding. We will look at different methods of doing things. But we know for sure what's going to happen, and we don't know where to turn yet.
Does Madison benefit disproportionately relative to its financial commitment?
I would say every system benefits proportionately.
Proportionate.
I would say so.
How does Green benefit from Madison's expenditures?
Green doesn't benefit from Madison's. You said every system. We run 9 different systems.
No, I'm talking about each of the counties has its own physical operation, right?
Green does not
Now,
benefit.
how does Green or Madison, or excuse me, or Orange benefit from Madison's operation?
Because no matter what we do, if we look to borrow money, we work with the Virginia Resource Authority. They look at our total customer base. And even though Madison is a smaller customer base, it is still a customer base. So if we go to borrow money, our borrowing capacity is based on our total customer base. They don't look at us and go, well, you have so many people here, and so many people here, and so many people. They look at us as a whole. So we all benefit by that.
We need to kind of face reality because your business and your operation is run off of your customers. And if Greene County pulls out and you take 3,000 customers out of there, something's got to give. Somebody's got to come up with some money to keep your operation running. So expenses have to go up. I know a little bit about business, and if you get rid of a whole lot, you got to do something to make up the difference. Somewhere, somehow.
Follow up on Pete's question. Why is Greene County withdrawing? What do they propose? What do they want to withdraw? What's their issue?
I won't even go into that.
Okay.
It's tied up in the court right now. So that's not a matter I want to discuss here this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? None? Member of the public? Questions?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay.
And I've got some statements and some questions. This presentation and the presentation that I think you all have the data on from our previous meeting with Tim and Terry Lynn. In these 2 meetings, we've gathered more information than I've ever heard out of RSA before. So thank you very, very much. I mean, super, super helpful. Tonight we heard that the potential for a new sewer treatment plant at the current size is somewhere around $4 to $5 million. Never heard that before. It's been alluded to multiple times that it's going to cost tens of millions of dollars. It's good to see that they're looking at that and planning for Madison's future. The other one that has always come up, and I'm sure Pete knows this, it's been alluded to multiple times that the creek that we discharge in currently is at capacity based on the discharge amount. According to Tim, which makes perfect sense, this technology has changed so substantially that maybe we could expand that sewer treatment plant and stay in the current location, not just based on moving lines, but more on acquisition of property. And then building all the infrastructure that goes with it. If we can do more there, then that's works in everybody's favor. The grant funding, RSA's position has been explained to myself and lots of us multiple times. Y'all want a new sewer treatment plant? There's the money. We'll build a new sewer treatment plant. No big deal. This grant funding thing is great for Madison County. It gives us a lot of opportunity that we just don't have. Essentially, I think one of the questions that Tim came tonight trying to gauge a little bit was with this $30,000 grant study for the sewer treatment plant, what is Madison's direction kind of looking forward? Do we want to grow? And he kind of led into the question. It looks to me like we're doing what basically the water treatment plant is double the size of the sewer treatment plant as far as capacity. Is that what it is?
Almost 3 times.
3 times. So the question is if we were to go to the size, the capacity of the water treatment plant for the sewer treatment plant, would the cost associated with that be triple the $4 to $5 million bucks? Or is it something that with the technology, there's some cost savings instead of just doing.
You're saying if
now.
we take it from 80,000 to 250?
Sure, yeah, sure.
No.
All right.
We're not. In fact, the engineer that we're working with thinks that we could probably take it to match the water plant size in that same estimate.
Big, that is big.
And here's what RSA would see in there. Of course, this would be, we would have to work with the county. But, you know, every new connection helps offset that cost. So right now, where we don't have sewer EDUs available, if all of a sudden you had 100 sewer EDUs available, that's gonna greatly offset the cost. And that's $1 million.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Sean a question?
Greg?
Yes. Sean, I'm just curious, let's say that we had a grant and the county came up with the other half of the money to do this, and we got developers that come now because we've got some EDUs and want to put some business or maybe some housing. Could we ask for proffers to get our money back?
Can it be done? Yes. It is a very technical area. They call them public-private partnerships. But and you probably consider that, and we'll discuss some of the broadband opportunities. But yes, that could be done.
The only other one that I've got for you, Tim, and to answer Mr. Ward's question a little bit, Madison, by having all three counties as part of RSA, it gives borrowing capacity. It gives everybody such an advantage. Frankly, in Madison, we haven't taken advantage of that, like Green and Orange have in a lot of ways, which is fun. I think a lot of us, frankly, are here. We're really conservative and we use pretty good judgment, I hope. But Green and Orange have benefited by our credit worthiness, being a partner of RSA. It's unfortunate to see one of them go out on their own. Tim, would you be available to give a couple folks some tours of these facilities at some point?
Sure, we can arrange that. I think it's just what I said, we did one, it's probably been 5 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
that We did that, but, and you're right, it's the same old plant today, sir, that you saw, but, well, actually, no, we've done some of it.
That would be good.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Tom.
No question, okay. If there are no more questions, thank you, Mr. Clemens, appreciate it.
Thank you for the
Presentation.
If someone has further questions, they can contact us.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Any items from the public or the planning commission? Mr. Elliott, you were at the last board of supervisor meeting, I think. You have any?
Thank you. Last supervisor meeting, they talked a little bit about the budget and they talked about the cell tower that's coming up. I think they had some gentleman there that asked some stuff for the rescue squad and we got that worked out. That was pretty much what went on.
All right, thank you. There's nothing else on our agenda for tonight. Anybody else from the planning commission got anything they want to add at this point? If not,
Bill, stay in session for the discussion of broadband. It's on our agenda. I mean, it seems.
I do. Yes,
There you go. All right. So back to us, I guess.
yes.
All right. Broadband discussion. It says me on it. That's good. Who would like to lead off with this? I feel like somebody from the committee would lead off. Hobbs, would you like to start or Cardi or?
I'm not going to say a few things, please. Just kind of funny with the car, but I do remember that doing something about the county's broadband and cell phone service is officially a board priority. So this is kind of out of the survey and a report the planning commission did, but it is on the county's priority list. So pay attention to it in that form. I do think that looking back that since this recent discussion started back in December, we've come a long way on this in terms of a lot of folks with the county have a little bit better understanding of what's involved with broadband that we didn't have back then. And when the chairman appointed the task force earlier, we put forth some ideas about what this group, this task force might come back with. And I think I made a copy of it, but they prepared a draft strategic plan that we have in front of you. So if, depending on what happens, it's at least a good charter and a good position to work from, because it does articulate several things that we're in front of us. I think that there's this question about whether the county ought to have a broadband or task force. The core item in my book is that we need to put an individual or a group in charge of this as a focus group and provide resources in terms of direction, staff, moral support, funding, all these things. Because my observation is just wishing broadband's going to happen is not going to be productive. We need to be serious about it, or just two ways to go on this. Another idea that's been floated is this idea of procuring a consultant, and we are able to use some of the last pot of federal money for that, our knowledge, so that it is an opportunity to have. So with that, glad to answer questions.
Bert, you want to talk or go on? Yeah, so, what was it, was March 3rd, I think, Mr. Work presented what the task force, group had put together, and we left with the idea that we needed to do a little more homework. So as a result of that, we come up with that, what we're calling a preliminary strategic plan. And I apologize, I didn't send it out to the board members here until yesterday. It is a quick read, and I am thinking that if we are ever to decide to go with a true broadband authority, that this strategic plan would be very much a part of what we direct the authority, what we expect, our expectations of the authority. Because obviously, as we've all seen, according to the Virginia Code, you've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, things that are the powers of the authority. But I should certainly think that anyone going into it, yeah, I recognize that I can have the power to enter contracts and have the power to borrow money, but my direction from the board as a member of this authority is not to do this or is to do that. So I think if we as board of supervisors could look over this document, maybe give you more than 24 hours to look over this document, I apologize. And add to it anything that we might want out of this authority that would be worth putting together and going forward. Now, Mr. Hobbs put together this broadband task force tasks and deliverables. We're slowly checking those off. And then, I don't know whether, did any of the planning commission, Mike, I gave you this.
Everybody got a copy?
Everybody got a copy?
Yes.
Of the pluses and minuses?
Yes.
So the task force is.
I'm sorry. I thought they can pass copies out to everybody.
We'll get you copies.
Great.
We'll email them to everybody.
Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, it's just a quick summary of 3 scenarios, whether you continue with a task force or whether you continue or whether you create a broadband authority, and then who it should be comprised of, which would be the second step if, if we decide to go with a full-blown authority. So I'm continuing to talk to people, weigh the pluses and minuses.
I think the strategic plan, just not fully fleshed out yet, is something that we haven't had, that I think is good. I hope it's modeled after some of the ones that have worked well in the county. I think a key couple of things I see in it, and these items, I think, are, the intention to not offer services directly to end user customers. That is one of the, whether we do that or not, is one of the things that I think should be key to whether it's a authority or a county committee task force. But if we're not doing that, then that makes that less critical. But one of the things I think is essential, that whatever we set up does is, while we're necessarily partnering with ISPs, technology companies, we have to establish somebody that on the county, when I say the county, I'm talking about the citizens of Madison County, represents them in targeting, engaging providers, but targeting specific projects. Because that's getting directly at problems that we've had historically, in that we wait for private sector to do it. It's only going to cherry pick the places that already don't have a broadband problem, like the ones that have a broadband problem, where we already have cable. So something's got to be established, so we know this now. That identifies a specific project. In terms of missing something carved out, I think I still. I need to look at this and look at.
I have a question for John.
Peter, you want to chime in?
Well, I'm gonna be frank. We either have to take this seriously or we're not going anywhere. Francoise and I started this effort at Mike's request in early November. Mike, myself, and Francoise have spent a great deal of time. These are the memos that I personally have written during that time and distributed them. Many of them, I think, have reached the board. The present task force does not have the time, and I'm referring to some of the members on the, Kevin and Cardi. Kevin works full-time. He's on the board, which takes a great deal of time, as you all know. Cardi works a large part of the time and has myriad projects he's working on, as well as sitting on the board. Mike and Francoise and I have more time, but we don't have expertise. We are learning as we go. When we started this project in early November, we knew next to nothing about broadband. And we've learned, but we are by no means experts. And if we want to get into this business and really compete for funds that are available, we have to create a body that has expertise. And one of the suggestions we have made repeatedly is that we notify the citizens, the residents of this county, either in an article which we have drafted and I think has been circulated to some of you, or in some kind of an advertisement to see if there are people in the county that do have those skills. Those skills obviously are IT skills, information technology skills at a high level, which does not exist on the current task force. It includes business skills, finance skills, project management skills on a large scale. And the task force just does not have those skills or experience of those people. So my message to the board is, if we're going to do this, and I fervently hope that we do this, that we go down this road, that we compete for and get some of these grants that are available. I don't know if you all are following the currently proposed infrastructure bill, but there is $100 billion proposed in that bill for broadband development. But if we're not going to show up and indicate our interest, we're not going to get any of that. We haven't gotten any of it so far, and yet all of our neighbors, or I should say most of our neighbors, not all, most of our neighbors have gotten grants or are close to getting grants now. We haven't gotten any. And we haven't gotten any because we haven't organized for the task. And we have not gotten together a group of people who knows what they're doing. We're trying, this little task force part is trying, but we can't do it by ourselves.
Thank you. I agree with Peter. I think what we need is we need to move forward on this. We beat this up for some time. It's obvious there's lots and lots of money out there, which Madison County is losing out on. Without some type of an organization like an authority to facilitate these projects and move them along in the county, we're not going to go anywhere. I think we should, to get that organization in there, we need an authority, and we can control that authority with this strategic plan like Albemarle County has done, okay, and they are doing quite well in their role down there. But if we don't have an organization in place soon, we're not going anywhere. We're going to lose out on all of these funds that are out there. And my suggestion would be that we go ahead and file with the State Corporation Commission for an authority, and then attach this strategic plan to that, and then go out and solicit for some good professional people that have worked in this field and put it all together from there. But until we do that, we are not going to go anywhere. We can continue to read all this stuff. It's all in the papers every day and come across the internet. I got a stack of crap about that high on all this stuff, and I don't really need to read anymore. We need to move forward with a organization that can facilitate the affordable broadband service in Madison County. We do not have that. A task force is not going to do that. We need an authority, something, an organization that I think people will respect when we start dealing with them. I do not have the expertise to be on an authority, but we can solicit for that, as Peter said. But that's, I think we need to move forward on this. I think we can delayed it enough. We're losing out big time.
And I agree 100% with both comments. However, I don't agree with it's at any fault to the board members for lack of availability. We're always here. We're always working. We all have full-time jobs. But I do have a question to Jack. So for the 3 different scenarios, if we to hire a consultant, I mean, that's what we need to do, correct? Do all of these scenarios give them the power to do so, to hire a consultant? Is one better? I hear everyone saying broadband authority. Is there any more power, any more pull?
Not exactly in the way you asked. The problem with some of these authorities is they need funding and they need staffing. So if whatever it is, probably from the board of supervisors or donations from folks, or they could find grants. So when it comes to support, that would have to come from the board. Just because you have an authority doesn't give them taxing powers or.
So we would
money's
still
gotta come
be.
from somewhere.
Okay, okay.
Right, and I differ with the opinions, but one thing we do agree on, we need to have a group of individual that's running this.
Mhm.
I'd submit that we've got a lot of good folks working for the county, we've got a lot of good volunteers and board members. But here's our step to be. And this is more than an all-star task.
Mhm.
This is gonna be somebody's main focus for the next several years.
So either scenario would work for that position.
Right, and so if your question is, with the consultant, we could work that in a number of ways. Either through a committee, a board, or an authority, but it's not restricted.
Not restricted. Okay, that was the question.
If I could just amplify briefly, for the people who have been involved, there is a state, I'm not sure it's an agency, Google the term Commonwealth Connect. This is a group of people who've been working on these types of initiatives for the past several years. Most of them come out of Dinwiddie County. Dinwiddie has the benefit of having a lot of tobacco farms, so they have gotten some of the tobacco settlement money through the Tobacco Regional Revitalization Commission. What Commonwealth Connect does more than anything is it provides a lot of the resources that people are probably looking for and are wondering how to find them. The folks at Commonwealth Connect are very interested in this. They have stated as their goal statewide connectivity by 2028. They acknowledge that that is a very ambitious goal. They also acknowledge that part of the challenges that they have in rural areas are, the ones that we have already talked about. What makes it further complicated for a locality like Madison County is the fact that we have mountains. And as a result, the third best option most people acknowledge is wireless, but wireless would probably be wireless is pretty effective if you live in a floodplain or a coastal plain. In a place like Madison County, it's just not very helpful. But that is frequently the biggest issue. One of the other issues you have to deal with is something called backhaul, to make sure that all of this gets tied into the line. The good news is the people at Commonwealth Connect, I went to a seminar specifically for this purpose to find out a little bit about these folks. And, they are probably the best available state resource in terms of finding out what is available.
Yes, my elephant in the room is, and you're alluding to it, but you're not saying it, cost, just to get started. Now, if you're talking about somebody who has IT experience and all these other things you want them to have, these people have high-end jobs. They have high-paying jobs. And somebody living in Madison or even wanting to be a part of Madison County is not going to do it for free. They shouldn't have to do it for free. This is a really technical, you get what you pay for. And people that I know that would be able to do something like this also have really big jobs. I mean, that's what they do. A consultant kind of fee, probably, you have to watch consultants because sometimes you gotta be sure what their motives are. And somebody's gotta be able to evaluate what they tell you.
Mhm.
I mean, if you don't even know that, we've been duped before a few times, well, somewhat, before we found out, wait a minute, this is not where we wanted to go at all. I know in our school systems, we have that a lot. And I'm just wondering, what is the thought on that? Because if you don't decide how you're going to pay for even the initial step, which is going to take some money, how can we go further?
Yes.
Our initial, we have a memo that talks about to see where we can go. It includes the suggestion that, as I mentioned just a moment ago, that we run an article in the paper seeking volunteers. And that didn't come out of my imagination. That came from people in Culpeper County, in the Culpeper County government, who did it when they were considering forming an authority. They ultimately did not form an authority, but they got a wonderful response from retired people who came to Culpeper County because they liked it just as people come to Madison County. And they were willing to volunteer their time and their expertise. We haven't even tried to do that. You know, we can't despair until we make an effort to see if there are people out there who would be willing to volunteer for Madison County. Certainly the three of us have been willing to volunteer for Madison County. And while we don't have the requisite skills, we have some energy. So that's one way to do it. We also have Clint Hyde at Madison Gigabyte. And I know that there's some history with Clint, with some folks in this room. But the fact of the matter is, he knows more about broadband and the history of broadband in Madison County than anybody else. He knows what areas are served, what areas are not served, and what we have suggested to Jack is that he authorize a reasonable hourly rate that we can consult with him over a short period of time and gain the knowledge that he has. That wouldn't cost a lot of money. We could do that, you know, and we're willing to do that. And we're willing to report back to the board. But you gotta, you know, you have to move forward. We've been dead in the water now for some time on this.
You know, I'm all for the idea of getting a consultant or somebody that knows a lot about broadband. I got no problem with that at all. And I think it would be great. But one of the things I'm concerned about is with the aging population, what is the need here in the county? What do we have now? And the thing that worries me more than anything else, and I know we need to create people, and I agree with Peter and I agree with Mike that we need smart people. But the word authority scares me to death, because I'm afraid that the word authority, some of you guys are gonna be here for a long time. The authority is gonna be coming here and say, give me this from the taxpayers. And that's what we're with the word authority.
I can see how an authority would work without some preliminary funding. And it's for the citizens of Madison County. Therefore, the citizens have to pay something. Not through the nose, but they do have to pay it. And we will not have a viable state-of-the-art network unless we invest. It's, you know, even to get grants, you need to invest some money. You can't make money without putting money in.
And you know, just on what little bit I know about people in Madison County, which is sometimes a lot and sometimes not, but Pete, I do know a lot of people, and like tomorrow, for instance, there's a district meeting for a group I'm in. They're doing it by Google Meet. You wouldn't believe what calls I've had so far, because they know I know, you know. And we're meeting at the Literacy Council in order to have a signal enough to have the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have the meeting, they can't do it out of their homes. So who knows how many people, there won't be too many people. That's, older people are doing this.
Can I give you a little, it's a funny story and it's a sad story at the same time. It happened to me. I have a brand new car and it's keyless. And I have cats in my car. I'm coming down from DC. I arrive at the vineyard and I have 2 cats in my hand, and I go into the house, and, because there are 2 more cats in the car, I close the door, and the keys are in there. I come back down, I can't open my car. I mean, my cell phone is in there, my computer, one of my cats, everything is in there. I can't open my car. Fortunately, I have a landline, so I call my husband, who calls the dealership, and they try their system to activate a Sirius XM. And because we don't have access, it comes down. My husband had to drive all the way from DC after 3 surgeries and 3 more surgeries the next day to just open that stupid car.
You need a key.
With no
The
door.
window is open and the keys are in. Right now. It's Catherine.
I got one more.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I
Yeah.
Very stressful.
We could sit here.
Let me say a couple things real quick. Money. I think the board, it's on our sheet for our budget talk next Tuesday. We put $22,000 towards this. This is an initial stages, out of this next round of CARES money. There is funding. The quantity of funding is very, very questionable. Everybody has seen articles, I'm sure, about the 3-cent tax increase. Also about the $1.5 million that we are starting with as a beginning appropriation to balance the budget. We have capital needs. Funding, everybody here agrees, we must have to accomplish the broadband initiative. We all understand that. Probably going with consultants is what's gonna happen if it's an authority or not an authority. We keep talking about the composition of this authority and how other counties have really accomplished getting some of this money. It sounds like a lot of those are board of supervisors. That's what the broadband authorities are comprised of, not these experts. They reach out and certainly try to get these experts to either paid experts or volunteers, which we have great ones in Madison that have wealth of knowledge, not just Glen High. Glen High's a great resource. But there are lots of these people out here that live here that would be glad to help. That still, I think, needs to be shaken out. The authority and the idea that it's terrifying knowing that an authority can go out there and borrow a bunch of money and not have, and it's well within their means to be able to do that. And then we don't have any control if we put the wrong people on that. The role volunteering for it is massive. And thank you very, very, very much to everybody involved. They had experts on the last broadband group, and they didn't accomplish anything. They got some good data. They got some good information that they just kind of figured out, unfortunately. We do need to do something. I would like to put this on the agenda for this upcoming Tuesday's meeting. I'm not saying we're going to form an authority that night. We do need to continue to discuss this and get something moving in a positive direction.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, sir.
I did find that website. It is www.commonwealthconnect.virginia.gov. And among other things, they have a comprehensive toolkit for local leaders, which includes a step-by-step guide, a model solicitation, example solicitations from Virginia localities, and then, of course, the frequently asked questions, pitfalls, and benefits of broadband.
Cool.
So those of you who are interested into our reporters, if any of you are interested, you probably already know this.
Sean, we've been in touch with Commonwealth Connect. We talked about their toolkit in our December memo. So we're not unaware of them.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody in the room has the website.
Clay, may I suggest one thing, because I'd like to see this go forward. We prepared, a memo on March 21, and it set forth certain steps that could be taken, and Mike and Francois and I would be willing to take these steps, and we've already taken one. But we need authority to do it. One is to consult with Flint High, and as I say, my recommendation would be that we pay them on an hourly basis. I suggested $100 an hour, and we keep that short. We get what information we can get from them. So we're not hiring a new consultant to reinvent the wheel. The second thing is to interview providers. And we've got a list of providers, and it may surprise you to hear that 5 providers, 5 ISPs, got money from FCC to service Madison County. We haven't even been in touch with those providers, but we need to do that, and see what they plan to do. Step 3 is identify volunteer broadband authority members. That's easy to do. We have an article that we've written that we can get Gracie hopefully published.
Has everybody seen this article?
And others as well. And the fourth is step 4 is draft broadband.
Can you send us the article? I'm parting, that is the memo over here, and I'm sorry, I'm swamped with paper every day of the week.
I didn't send it to you, but I sent it to Carter.
Send it to all of us so we can see this. Why have you not interviewed the providers? If you've identified 5 providers, I mean, why can we not talk to those people already with just the task?
Bruce, it's Tracy on.
Hi.
I was just about to ask her if she wants to speak.
What Mr. Work is talking about is the REC thing, so can you chime in on that?
Send us some documents, please, Mr. Work. Anything you've got that you think would be helpful, and send it to all of us, please. We will put this on our agenda for this upcoming Tuesday meeting, try to start taking some decisive action moving forward with this.
Great, why don't I just hand this to Jack, and he can make copies and get them to you. Anyway.
Mr. Work, why do you feel that it's important or imperative to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
To form the broadband authority? Why do you feel that that is imperative?
We have looked at all the surrounding counties. And those that have done the best in terms of advancing broadband have all formed authorities. Those that have done less well, Greene County, Culpeper County, have not formed authorities. To this point, Greene has not gotten any sizable grant from anybody, although they've been in this arena for some time. So that is our principal basis for doing it, but I think that if you form something formal and you actually have people with expertise on that, that their likelihood of success is much greater. we did have a committee, and I think, we've had some discussion about this. Rin the Valley, who did have expertise, does have expertise in the IT field, had a group of about 20 people that was formed about the same time all these other counties around here were getting into the business, into the broadband arena. And that was 2016. And I know that memories are different, but as I think I've told you all, Mr. LaValle has told me in no uncertain terms that they asked the board for authority to issue RFPs to potential providers. And that request was denied, and they had no choice but to disband. Now, I don't have any.
I thought they weren't
That's not correct. That's incorrect.
I was
That
on
is
the
not
board at
correct.
that point.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
No, that's
he
incorrect.
insists that's what happened.
We love Red though.
As I say, I don't have
That
that
is not
knowledge. But they collapsed.
I think they stopped meeting, but
Hey, bottom line is, we need to get on the ball.
Yeah.
And we need
We
to
just need
get
to make
some
a
of this
decision.
federal grant money. We need to either take it, we need to take it seriously, no matter if it's an authority or a task force. Your comment about the counties that have formed authorities are more successful getting grant funding is a great argument. We do need to take it seriously. Let's see where we can go and see if we can start putting some pieces together to get this thing moving in the right direction. And that's really the gist of all of this.
and Tuesday we'll make a decision.
Yeah, and Tuesday we'll start to figure out. Correct.
Yeah, there's no, all of us agree that we've got to have a group with expertise, and it's gonna cost us some.
Have the power to negotiate with external partners.
What, I don't, that's a disconnect for me, Francois, is, yeah, so we form a committee without going through the SCC, and we give this committee the power to go out and do this negotiation, and, I don't see the difference.
What was the commentary about?
Oh, yeah, what's that? Having to go through all the formality of setting up an authority,
That doesn't require.
articles and
the SEC.
corporation, SCC, you don't have to follow with the SCC?
No, filed with the state corporation.
That's
Okay,
SEC.
SCC.
Oh, I thought you said
SCC, no.
This feels exceedingly painful. Everybody is trying to accomplish the same thing. We need
Yeah.
broadband. We know we need broadband. Send us some
Just a different
documents.
name.
Don't just send them to one, send them to all of us, and we'll read them, we'll try to get through them, we'll try to take some action this upcoming Tuesday. This is very, very important. We all understand it. Gracie, you got anything? What? Tracy's sending us stuff.
That's the REC thing, Tracy?
Thank you, Tracy. Aye. Back to the planning commission.
If there's nothing else from the planning commission, can I get a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor of adjourning the planning commission, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I hope your meetings are much more productive. I get the impression they are, Kevin. Well, I really do.
Yeah. This group. Yeah, we need to go in the closed session. Let's do this. And we can take a break.
In the closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections A 2.2-3711A7, for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. B, 2.2-3711A29, for discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract or discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining power or negotiating strategy of the public body. And C, 2.2-3711A1, for discussion on the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of the county administrator.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you for hearing us out.
Yeah, thank you. Still haven't got a haircut.
Oh, certainly.
Oh, congratulations.